Bismillah, alhamdulillah, wa salatu salam ala Rasulullah. We continue reading from the 40 Principles of the Religion by Imam Al-Ghazali. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower his mercy on him and accept all his deeds and benefit us from his knowledge. We have reached the fourth principle, which is about knowledge, al-ilm. And quantitatively, it's a very short text here in this particular book. So we'll shuttle between Arabic and English for the benefit of the listener, inshallah. وأنه عالم بجميع المعلومات محيط بما يجري من تخوم الأرضين إلى أعلى السماوات. He is knowledgeable of all things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knowledgeable of all things. He is omniscient. And his knowledge encompasses whatever may happen from the bowels of the earth to the highest heaven. Basically, anything that takes place in the universe. And the following sentence also explains some of the details. لا يعزب عن علمه مثقال ذرة في الأرض ولا في السماء. An atom's weight in the heavens or the earth does not escape his knowledge. So his knowledge really covers everything, and there is really a good reason for this. He is the creator of all that exists. How is it possible that he does not know? Subhanahu wa ta'ala. We might know something here and there as humanity, and in fact, one of the first things that scientists and the philosophers and the sages and the intelligent, one of the first things that they realize is that how partial is our knowledge. Partial not in the sense of biased, but incomplete. Our knowledge of the universe is incomplete, though Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invites us to ponder the wonders of the universe. And it's beautiful that we continue to discover even the far remote parts of the universe, and still there is more. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah. Subhanallah. So, and this means also that human knowledge, even not only the level on the individual, but cumulative knowledge, the knowledge that humanity consolidates. And by knowledge here, I don't talk about Harry Potter. I don't talk about I talk about verified knowledge. And for us as Muslims, of course, either basically it is from the revealed knowledge, or it is really from knowledge that we acquire from studying the universe. And it's beautiful in Arabic that we say ayat. So the ayat could be the verses of the Quran, or the ayat we talk about the fil afaq, basically in the horizons, in the book of nature, if you will. And both the revealed book and this book of nature, both of them are from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is uncreated, and this universe is created. But the cumulative knowledge of all human beings from Adam alayhi salam until the very last person on earth, this cumulative knowledge encompasses only part of the reality of this universe. And not only it is partial, as I said earlier, but it depends on the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. So this is really important to realize. And there is another aspect to this. We talk about the in English we say knowledge, but in Arabic we have we have ilm, and we have also ma'rifah. And ilm, it should be basically about that which is really uh, verified. Once we talk about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it has to be always ilm. The human being could have ilm and could have ma'rifah, and the ma'rifah could be sound and maybe not. And there's a famous saying that is really used usually, let's say, by the people of the hearts, to make it a little bit more open. من عرف نفسه فقد عرف ربه. It's not a hadith. It's definitely not. But the meaning here, it talks first of all what is really I mentioned it because of the word arafa. In Islamic circles and really in Arabic, al-ma'rifah is always, most Muslim scholars would say and would agree that ma'rifah is always min ba'di jahala, after really a state of not knowing. Like the human being is born, yes, in a state of fitra. There are certain things that are given in the sense of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put them in, like the baby knowing instinctively how to nurse, for example. That's all these things. But acquiring knowledge takes basically for the overwhelming majority. I say for the overwhelming majority because there are babies who spoke and with knowledge, like Sayyidina Isa alayhi salam, who spoke immediately after Lady Maryam, peace upon her, gave birth to him. He spoke immediately, and when she took him home, he spoke. He defended his mother, and he said, "Inni Abdullah, atani al-kitab waj'al nabiyya." So the whole story. So that is not only using language, but the realization that, of course, he was the servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that he was chosen. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose him as a prophet, and he gave him the book. So عرف من عرف نفسه قد عرف ربه. So here in both cases, we talk about, and again, I'm not talking about this as a hadith, but talk about the meaning, which is absolutely sound in terms of the meaning. And it has been said, من عرف نفسه بذلها وعجزها وفقرها عرف الله بعزه وقدرته وغناه. So you would know if you know yourself, you'd know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If the meaning here, part of it at least, if you know yourself, your humility, your inability, because you cannot roam the universe. You can go to the moon. This whole story of going to Mars, which really, on the level of science, that's marvelous, but it will not solve the problem of all these 8 billion people. If we have polluted the earth, the solution is not really. It's pretty expensive to send people in these missions. And we talk even when it's not very far from Earth, sometimes simply to join the international space station. But they don't solve the problem. 8 billion people are not going to transfer them. So we better modify our behavior here. But again, so if you know yourself as, really your real state of being, and how modest one should be compared to this vast universe, almost nothing, you would glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you know yourself, your inability, and definitely we go through moments moments really is we talk about being weak even in our strongest state of youth and health. Uh, you know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is omnipotent, and if you realize your poverty in every respect, um, our poverty is not only in terms of usually we think about the financial dimension. No, our poverty, we cannot really exist without you know without breathing. We cannot exist without drinking. We cannot exist. So we're not self-subsisting. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is self-subsisting. He is the As-Samad subhanahu wa ta'ala. So from this perspective, but let's not forget that I have mentioned this in the sense of ilm. It could be attribute to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in Arabic, but you don't attribute ma'rifah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because for the most part it is really knowledge that is acquired after a state of ignorance, a state of not knowing, at least. The knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he so not an atom would escape his knowledge in this universe, in earth, or basically in heavens. بل يعلم دبيب النملة السوداء على صخرة الصماء في الليلة الظلماء ويدرك حركة الذر في جو الهواء. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he sees the black ant as it crawls along a jet black boulder in the dark of the night. What basically is impossible for a human being to detect, unaided. Okay, and this reminds me of the and if we add to this the next in fact all of it, but the next sentence, this next phrase, وَيَدْرِكُ حَرْكَةَ الذَّرْ فِي جَوِّ الْهَوَاءِ, and he perceives the most minuscule creature as it is tossed about by the wind. Yes, but it's really if you look through the in a specific position, when there is like a beam of light going through a window, under certain conditions of lighting, you will see the dust. All this in that beam of light going through the window, sun rays that go through the window. As I said, depends on the lightning and what have you. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala perceives all this and much, much more that we cannot even grasp. But in principle, and this is what Imam Al-Ghazali responded to in his critique of the philosophers in the Tahafut, when they claim that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the universals and not the particulars. Imam Al-Ghazali declared that as one issue where such a belief would render a Muslim an unbeliever. That's one of the three issues. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows the universals and knows the particulars, not in the way that we know the particulars. Because the next paragraph, and there are only two paragraphs, next paragraph also speaks about this. هو يعلم السر وأخفى، هو يطلع على هواجس الضمائر وحركات الخواطر وخفيات السرائر بعلم قديم أزلي لم يزل موصوفا به في أزل الآزال، لا بعلم متجدد حاصل في ذاته بالحلول والانتقال. He knows every secret, and secret in the sense of that which is hidden. Usually we can hide things from each other. We cannot hide things from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. there are no secrets in the universe. Let me put it this way. I mean, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created everything in the universe, no matter how complex, and it is very complex, and it is very beautiful. Subhanallah. There is the hadith that also circulates again. It says that الدنيا ملعونة ملعون ما فيها, but the idea is the hadith itself is not of the highest really chain of narrators, so that's problematic in terms of the chain narrators. Now, if this universe, if life on Earth, if it distracts us from our role, our vicegerency, our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it distracts us from submitting to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If it really leads us to become oblivious to what should be done at a specific moment, forgetting about prioritizing our actions so that we could really keep the perform our obligations, timely obligations, etc. Then definitely it's the things that we see will are against our interests. Otherwise, the signs in the universe, they point to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And let me just maybe summarize it in the following fashion. You see a beautiful natural phenomenon. You could see the beautiful design, the feathers, let's say, of a peacock, or the beautiful, you listen to beautiful birds singing, what have you. One person might say, Subhanallah, Tabarakallah, Ahsan al-Khaliqeen. Or one might simply be distracted. And one might say, wow, okay, which is not really praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not really an expression of gratitude. One is not really in touch with the transcendent. And this is really very important for us in this life, that we Ihsan is al-Husn, that's the highest level, Islam, Iman, and then Ihsan, doing things to a degree of perfection, but also not to forget about, realizing the beauty, and that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of all this beauty. Inna Allah jameen yuhibbul jamal, because really that's exact, people who lose touch with the transcendent might really turn away from real beauty and immerse themselves in sheer ugliness in terms of behavior, in terms of what they are doing. At any rate, He knows every secret and what is still yet more hidden. And what's more hidden from us. We can predict certain things which might take place, which and might not. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, basically, He created this universe, and He allotted a time for the end of this universe. It's the day of judgment, and the what we see as fixed, the mighty mountains, one day they will end. And I understand the first of all direct verses that speak about the end of the universe, but sometimes referring also to the mountains, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will blow them up. ينسفها ربي نسفا, or basically other verses that speak about the mountains becoming like fluffy wool, كالعهن المنفوش, which I understand really as the absence of the gravity that existed before. But there is an appointed time. We don't know this. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. And this is why when Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, in the famous hadith in which he basically asked the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam about Islam, Iman, and Ihsan, ultimately he also asked about as-sa'a, the hour, the time for the end of time, really, the end of this universe. And Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in a way that puzzled his companions who were also present, Sayyidina Umar al-Khattab, who reported this tradition. He said, "ما المسؤول عنها بأعلم من السائل." Neither the question does not know more than the questioner. Both of them. So Sayyidina Jibreel alayhi salam, the archangel, does not know. Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Sayyid al-Mursal, Khatam al-Anbiya al-Mursalin, Nabi al-Mujtaba, he does not know about the Amr. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows. I just mentioned this as the that which is more hidden from us, but not from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's aware of the misgivings of every conscience. So our inner dimensions, the inner heart, is known to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we should not be surprised. In fact, today, I mean, like recently, they started basically translating brain brain activity into words. Like you would think about something, and scholars, scientists, neuroscientists rather, try to decipher what did you think about. But they in a very, very limited fashion, not something complex. But if you think of a hammer, for example, they might be able to pinpoint that you thought of a hammer, the wavelength, etc., the electrical activity. So I hope they will never be able to not to hide things. It's basically life will become impossible if because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will give us. He gives basically a chance to people after they make mistakes, and this is why one of the most beautiful things to ask for in our dua, in our prayers, in our supplication, is to ask for that our record will not be exposed before people on the day of judgment, but also not really here on earth. He is aware of the misgivings of every conscience, the development of every conscious thought, and every secret's innermost details. No secrets really before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The knowledge by which he perceives all this is a timeless, eternal knowledge, qadim, ilm qadim. And this is really, it's extremely important, because for us, every single knowledge is it is contextualized. Indeed, I can go back. I remember, for example, that it is time, a specific time and space. Everything that you learn, you might be able to pinpoint this, maybe not. For example, I can say that around 1981, 82. So it. I read, for example, for the first time, I started reading during that period about. I read in the Munqidh min al-Dalal, the Deliverance from Error, Imam Al-Ghazali's Munqidh al-Dalal, early 80s. I remember that in the summer of 1984, I started reading Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics. I mean, just simply saying that every word that we learn, it is contextualized, time and space, and you can speak about many other things in that context. But the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is timeless. This is really very important to know. It's لا بعلم متجدد حاصل في ذاته بالحلول والانتقال. So it is timeless, it is eternal knowledge with which he is unceasingly describes. It is not a newfound knowledge that occurs within himself, by conveyance or transmission. Uh, it's really whether you talk about transmission of knowledge, or uh, we talk about movement, really, which is also impossible when you speak about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the knowledge, I think it's beautiful when one realizes this, internalizes that the knowledge of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is, He knows the universes and the particulars, He knows everything in the universe, because He created this universe. He created every single part of it and every stage uh, in this universe. With the creation of the human being at the center of, not of course spatially at the center of this universe. It was created to serve us, so that we may fulfill this vicegerency, this istikhlaf, which is the khilafah here is not a political office that developed after our beloved Prophet ﷺ passed away. Rather, it's basically that the human activity, all human activity, whether it's really uh, in the field of economics, the social activity, political activity, but it's not restricted to the political office as developed. Every human being should partake in this and live up to his or her original role, and simply find comfort in surrendering to the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala willfully, and also uh, you know uh, um, while studying this message that has been sent to us, so that we find comfort, peace, and tranquility in our lives. And inshallah, tomorrow we'll deal with the irada. That would be the fifth principle. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.